Thank you for tuning in to the Iron Purpose podcast. I do have a special guest this week. I was going to have another one posted, and then I saw some news about him, and I was like, man, this could be a great opportunity to kind of collab a little bit and get his message out there while also kind of spreading mine as well. So, Josh Gazelka, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Bailey Belter. I appreciate you having me on. I think we've known each other for 2.5 decades, maybe. We played
Oh, I
soccer
was good. Yeah.
together, basketball together, and I'm excited to be on. If you asked me a week ago what we would talk about if I was on your podcast, it wouldn't be this. This is not
It
something
would
that
be
was on my
a
radar.
completely different story. Yeah. And I've wanted to have you on for a little while now, just because you're an awesome guy. You got a great story and a good head on your shoulders. So I think it would have been a lot of fun to have you on, regardless. So this is cool. Kind of knocking out two birds at the same time here, getting you on, and then also being able to talk about some new stuff too. But before we get into what we're going to talk about, what's life been like for you up until now? What you've been up to lately, since we haven't chatted for a little bit now.
Sure. Up until now, it's been really quiet. It's been really nice. I mean, my I have two little girls, a almost 5-year old and a 9-month old who's just started to say "dada."
Ah,
I'm having lots of campfires all winter long and just enjoying nature. I've been sharing a little bit more about myself on social media, which is extremely uncomfortable. And as we get to later in this conversation, you'll see how uncomfortable this really is. But it's been a really relaxing winter, and I've been able to have a lot of family time and a lot of quality time, and
mm,
just uh, an interesting thing and an invulnerable thing over the last year is I almost exactly a year ago I had to close the doors for my
mm.
business. I had a hard cidery in the Brainerd area. It was difficult. It was humbling, but I learned a lot of lessons through it. And since that point, I've been praying a lot. Asking God, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And while He's given me peace, He's not giving me a lot of direction, which has
Right.
been frustrating to some degree, because it's like, God, what do you want me to do? And for the last year, it was kind of just wait and see. And about a week ago, he yelled at me and gave me a very clear direction, which was
Mm,
startling after a year of silence.
right. And it's kind of, and I'm sure with how hard it was to have to close down the cidery and take that direction during the time where it is quiet, you're probably like, man, what am I supposed to do? And like you said, God doesn't really give us direction. He has a plan for us, and He doesn't specifically say, all right, I want you to go do this or do that. It's kind of, we just pray for preparation. Help me to be prepared for the next journey in my life, and we'll ride when it gets to that time. But I'm sure looking
Yeah,
back now, this time of being with your family and kind of relaxing a little bit has been a blessing in disguise.
absolutely. It's been difficult because I'm not wired that way.
Mm.
Um, I'm not wired to sit still and to relax. I'm a doer. I told my wife I'm a mountain climber in search of a mountain, and so the idea of just sitting and relaxing and just trying to rest and focus on growing as a person, on getting in the Word, on just being patient is not how I'm wired. And so it's been, yes, relaxing, but for me, honestly challenging.
Mm.
And let's jump into what we keep alluding to. A week ago, I announced that I'm running for Senate District 6 in Minnesota. That covers the area from Grand Rapids all the way down to the Brainerd Lakes area. And it's not something that was even remotely on my radar. I've told so many friends over the last 10 years, I have no interest in running for politics right now. I went to a Eggs and Issues Chamber of Commerce event just last month. We had the local legislators come in and talk about things going on that are impacting the business community. And even there, I had a number of people come up to me and ask if I was interested in getting involved in politics. And I told them no. I had no interest because I have a job. I have a family. My wife was not on board with politics. And so I was happy just to be present and be where I was at. And I won't get into what happened with the senator that resigned, but it's a horrible situation, and he had to step down. Uh, and so my wife and I were suddenly put in this position where we needed to pray to decide, is this something we want to do and participate in? The day the news broke about the senator who resigned, I had a few people call me and ask if I would be interested in running. And going from that silence of not knowing where I'm being led to suddenly feeling yelled at by God saying, this is what I want you to do, was a jarring feeling.
Mm.
It almost felt like I was sitting in an airplane, thinking about going skydiving, and it was nice and peaceful. And suddenly the door just opens up and says, okay, here you go. It's time to, it's time to jump out of the plane. And I was not interested in running again. Like things weren't set up in a way for me that it would make sense to run, and yet the door opened and I just felt this massive push. And so I had a meeting with my boss shortly after the news broke, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to put it on his radar, see what he would think about if I ran for politics. And I work for a large marketing agency based down in Texas. I've risen through the ranks, and I'm currently a vice president of client experience
Mm.
there. I'm the person that when things are really chaotic, they call me up. If somebody's threatening a lawsuit, they bring me on to talk to the person because I empathize with business owners, but also I don't back down from a challenge. And so I called my boss and said, hey, this is the situation. I'm wrestling with it. I need to talk to my wife, but would I be able to keep my job if I pursued this Senate seat? And he quickly said, yeah, it's fine. And I was
Wow.
honestly surprised by that, humbled by the openness of my boss to support that. But so I was able to keep my role, and I'm going to have to be very strategic about how to balance the two because it's going to be busy.
Mm.
But my job was not the main thing. I mean, the main thing was if my wife is against this, it's off the table.
Mm.
And so I called her up, shared the news, and I'm pretty sure she immediately said no. she she was not thrilled about the idea. And we talked about it a lot. And the thing that I told her, and I meant it, but it was really hard to say, was if you are not on board with this and if you pray and you don't feel even a little bit of peace, we don't need to do this. Not every single door that's open is a door that you need to walk through.
Mm.
And honestly, that would have been hard for me because I felt called to it, but also I don't always hear God as well as I should. And God knows that I listen to my wife. And so he's going to speak through her so many times. And so when my wife shares something with me and I know she's pressing into the Lord, I take what she has to say so
Mm-hmm.
seriously. And so I told her, if you don't feel even a little bit of peace, I'm good. I'll let this go. And so we prayed a lot and wrestled with it a lot. And she shared her fears. We talked through them. And some of her fears were so valid. I mean, making sure that we can prioritize family because that is what needs to come first. I mean,
Mm.
I'm a Christian, then a husband, and then a father, and then a conservative. But that comes after everything else. So we kept wrestling with it, and she went on a run. I went to meet her, and this election is going to be incredibly fast. It's so fast they've not even announced the dates yet.
Oh
The
my
the
goodness.
governor's being a little bit strategic about it. Hopefully, when we post this tomorrow, the date will be announced, and you can share the date
Mm.
with this. But the dates for it are the primary likely will be in the middle of April. That's just a few weeks away. And then the
Right.
election will be right at the beginning of May. So about a month from now. It might even be a little bit before. So we'll have exact dates soon. But so to decide to run was an extremely quick thing. And I felt bad because that put a lot of pressure on my wife and I to
Mm-hmm.
really pursue Jesus in this. And then she went on her run. We She met me at Loco Express in Brainerd and came in with a smile and said, "Hey, I'm actually excited and I actually do feel peace and I think we should
Wow.
go do this thing." And back to my airplane example, so I was thinking about going skydiving. The doors opened, and suddenly my wife, who was the pilot of the plane, I wouldn't have been mad if she said, "Hey, it's stormy weather. You don't have to jump out of this plane."
Mm.
That
Yeah.
would have been okay. Uh, but suddenly she says, "Hey, clear skies. Go ahead." And it's a mix of excitement and fear jumping out of that plane. Fear comes from my dad was involved in politics for most of my life. And I've seen firsthand the storm that you have to go through in order to fight and serve the people of Minnesota. And it really is service. I mean, there's people think that you're running for a title, You're running for notoriety, but the amount of things you sacrifice make that so pointless. Like I've got a cool title. I've got a really great career already. I've got a family that I can spend time with, a little daughter that just learned how to say data. Like
Mm,
I've got so many great things. Choosing to go into this storm is a scary, exciting journey. And I can say exciting because I know God is with me. And
mm,
I don't know. I feel God is compelling me to go this direction. I feel extremely confident that I'm one of the best people for the job because I'm competent. I've got a background in very chaotic situations, and this legislature is chaotic. The situation's even more chaotic, and I know I can bring peace to that. I'm somebody that can represent small business, but also I'm somebody that can bring the kingdom of God into a very difficult, dark place.
mm,
Uh, I I would say that's probably half of why I'm running. Half is because there are things that we need to fight for. Half is this is a place full of dishonor and it needs a little bit more honor brought in. And so I'm taking this thing a step at a time. I'm not looking at this like God has destined me to be a senator in Minnesota. I'm not looking at it like that. I want where God is leading me. And so right
mm-hmm.
now it's racing to the primary. And if you don't know, the primary is where your party chooses their candidate. That'll be in a few weeks. You will see a lot of news from me asking you to go out and vote for me as your Republican candidate. Once that is done, then it's the general election where the Republican will go head to head against the Democrat. That will be about early May, maybe late April. And I need to take this a step at a time. God has told me
Mm,
to get involved here. I can bring peace. I can treat people with respect. And treating somebody with respect doesn't mean letting go of your values. I can stand firm while still loving my neighbor. I could tell them they're wrong. I can underline the value of conservative ideology without budging and losing my what I believe in, but I can still treat my neighbor with love. And I will go through this entire process with that as a cornerstone of how I operate. But it'll be 3 weeks from now. And then at that point, if I'm given the opportunity to run against the Democrat, I will carry on for that bit. And once that's done and I win, then I'll take it to the next step. And it is really a step at a time of, okay, God, what do you have for me here?
mm. I love that. Very well said. And when you're kind of touching on how you operate in chaotic situations and can be, so bring that peace to it while people are so negative towards you in a way. It reminds me of the 23rd Psalm when it says
Mm,
God essentially says he prepares a table for me in the midst of my enemies. And not that anybody is your enemy, but it may be someone that disagrees with you. And you're the kind of person that I would see, the doors open up, every single person's in there, whether they're calling you bad names or not, and you're preparing, you're grilling for them. Like, all right, let's eat. What do you guys want? And
yeah.
that's just the kind of person that you are. So it's really cool that you brought that and how that analogy kind of came too. Like, there's a table sitting there, and it doesn't matter who is there. You're going to be there talking with them and treating them all the same. And I even felt that growing up. Like you said, we grew up. Going to the same school. I started in seventh grade there, and I think I knew you even a little bit before through David and Pat
Yep.
and some of those guys. But even in like soccer, like I was just a little whippersnapper at the time, but you always made me feel included and stuff, and like on the soccer team and basketball, and it's kind of interesting how I was thinking just a little bit ago. The verse that this podcast is all based off of, Proverbs 27:17, is iron sharpens iron, so one person
Mm,
sharpens another. I believe it was your senior year that Coach Jensen made that the verse for the season. Proverb was iron sharpens iron, and at the time I didn't really realize what kind of impact that verse would have in my life, but
yeah.
it's kind of cool how we're connected in that way. And now it's kind of run full circle. And here we are talking again about, iron sharpening iron and kind of being that person that can help other people out, regardless of the backlash. And I can relate a little bit working in a jail, that it may come with a title. Some people think, a correction officer, oh yeah, you're in charge. You get to boss people around and tell them what to do. But in all reality, that's not what it's about. You're going in there
Yeah.
to help people. It's not even necessarily for the paycheck, because you don't get paid a whole lot of money doing those kind of things. But it's trying to help other people out. And like you said, I really like what you said. Being a mountain climber in search of a mountain.
Mm.
Do you feel like this is your mountain right now, or is it something with your life where you're always looking for that next one and trying to conquer it.
Mm,
And maybe it works out. Maybe you learn a lot from that mountain, and you're able to apply it to the next chapter of your life. Like you said with with Woodlore, you unfortunately had to close doors, but maybe you learned something there that you can take with you into this next mountain.
yeah, that is very true. There are things that I learned there. I don't know that I'd say I am wired as a person to be in pursuit of a mountain. I mean, I don't like life without challenges. I like having something to wrestle, something to tackle. Um, that's how I'm wired. But I choose to be the person that says, "God, what do you have for me here?"
Mm.
Uh, I would rather wait for the mountains that God puts in front of me and tackle those than constantly be in pursuit of one, because there are so many opportunities that have come my way,
Yeah.
and it's not always the time. And
Right.
it's having my wife and as a partner helps me see clearly not every mountain is one that I need to climb. But Woodlore, my hard cidery, really is a fire under me for why I am getting involved here.
Mm.
I started it. I poured my heart and soul into it. I built it from the ground up, and we won numerous national awards. We never received less than a 5-star review. We only got really good feedback from people, and yet we had to close our doors. And like, I'm a good conservative guy. I want to take ownership. I want to see what could I have done better. And I'm a businessman. Like, I want to identify those weak areas so that when I start something else, which I will, uh, I want to know what I could have done better. So there's
Mm.
things that I could do, that I could grow in, but I can't not look at the economy that we deal with in Minnesota. I cannot look at the regulations and tax burdens that my business went through, that so many businesses are going through right now, and it's only getting worse. Minnesota has the highest corporate tax rate in the entire country,
Wow.
beating out California. And so it might sound boring to talk about that, but it weighs heavy on me because these aren't faceless corporations. They're mom and pop shops. It's the coffee shop down the street. It's the cidery. I worked 100-hour weeks doing everything I could to make this thing work out, and it didn't. And if I had the opportunity to lift that boot off the neck of business owners and just individuals trying to make their dream a reality, I would give anything to do that. And so
Mm.
that's one of those things that pushes me to jump out of the plane, even though I know it's a scary journey, even though I know that people are they're not going to be kind. They're not going to like me, and that's okay,
Mm.
because I want to do what I can for small business owners. And you mentioned as a police officer and you working with the sheriff, um, yeah, the title's cool. Yeah, the uniform's pretty sweet, but you are in the woods with nobody at your back, and like it's a terrifying job,
Mm.
and you can't outweigh the difficulty of what you do, what other police officers do, everybody in law enforcement, what they have to go through
Mm.
with just some minor recognition. That's nothing. And honestly, it's you don't get enough. You don't get enough support. I have too many friends that are in law enforcement. I have too many family members that are in law enforcement to not be a strong advocate for that, because I've seen the stories firsthand. I've seen too many clips where a cop pulls somebody over and you have a split second to know if they're going to pull a gun on you or not. And yet the thing you have to not think about is, how can I best de-escalate the situation? How can I best approach this person? It is, which most recent rules and regulations were passed that I'm going to get sued over? Like, you can't think about that when you are trying to serve your community. Like, yes,
Mm.
training is good. Yes, supporting our officers and giving them more resources is good, but we've just so handicapped them that it is putting their lives at risk. And I think comparing what I'm doing to what you do is laughable. Somebody will call me a mean name. Who cares? Like, I don't mind that at all. There's cops getting shot at.
Right.
You're the man walking in the woods, and you're gonna get jumped, and there's no one at your back. And so, even thinking about, I'm rambling on. Maybe I'm building up to be a politician, Bailey,
I love it, man. I
but
love
I'm
it.
thinking about just rural cops. We have such a voice for the cops in the metro, and they need it. They
Mm.
need the support because they don't have a community always behind them. That when they get pulled over, their community is not saying, "Thank you for your service." It is a different environment, but we have
Mm-hmm.
our own problems up here, and I want to make sure that our law enforcement officers up here have the support that they need. I mean, I live in a very rural area, and if the police officer that's in my area has to pull somebody over and God forbid arrest them, there's nobody on duty. There's nobody looking over the community because we are just having to be very strategic with our resources. And
Mm-hmm.
they find a way because they care about the community. But again, instead of instead of having a mindset of how can I best approach this situation in front of me, you're thinking about all these extra things. If there's a drunk driver here and I have to arrest him, the rest of the city is not going to have somebody looking over it. And
Mm.
I want to make sure our police officers have a voice and somebody at their back when they're walking through the woods.
That's awesome, and it does mean a lot. Especially being involved. I do have family in law enforcement as well. My dad, my grandpa were all both
Yeah.
both police officers for 20 plus years, and you're right. There are times when we are understaffed because people don't, they just don't want to do it anymore because it just doesn't.
Yeah.
They say, well, it's not worth it, and there are places, like you said, where if they have to arrest somebody and take them to jail, that community is without their city officer for the moment, and county has to cover, or maybe state comes by.
Yep.
But yeah, it's times are definitely changing. But I think they are moving forward in a good way, especially up in this
Yeah.
area here. There's a lot of support from the community, and from people like yourself. Like it goes a long way, and it does mean a lot. So for you to bring that up, I do appreciate that. I have the thin blue line crossed behind me here because it's kind of in my roots. It really does mean a lot to me. So
Yeah.
appreciate you
Well,
bringing that up, man.
it's not just to be it's not to be self-serving because I see your background. I just shared this on social media when you posted this a few days ago. The Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association just endorsed me, and they're the guys that advocate for our law enforcement in St. Paul. And so for them to endorse me, it is so humbling. And I will do everything I can to have their back. And the things that I look at, the top three things I'm going into St. Paul fighting for is our law enforcement, small business to help boost our economy, and then helping just protect families. We
Mm,
haven't gotten too into that, but in part it's because I'm biased, but in part it's because we're under attack. I'm biased because I have my own two little girls, and I want to make sure that they can grow up in a school and have solid education. And I don't want to be worried as a parent about the woke agenda being pushed on them. I don't want to be worried about what books they're reading, what's their teacher teaching them. I want to just simply be confident that they're learning and growing to be strong adults. And that's a fear so many parents have to deal with, is just not having parental rights, not having a say in what their kids are taught. The parents are almost treated like they're second class citizens when
mm,
they're the ones that should be leading things. And it's not an easy solution.
right.
The parent teacher dynamic. There are parents that need to do better, but I want to do everything I can to protect families and protect children. And because I have two little girls, it's yet another fire under me to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
those are easily the top three things that I'm going to advocate for: is small business, families, and the police.
That's awesome. Yeah, families hits a little close to home for me recently too. I just,
Yeah,
my wife and I had a son the third of this month, so
man.
it's been quite the process, and it's tough being a parent. Trying to figure it out, and all the stuff you have to worry about with that too. Definitely things we've talked about is where are they going to go to school? What kind of
Yeah,
things are we gonna, how do we get them involved? And some of my friends who are also, I have another friend who's he and his wife are pregnant, and they're thinking, well, that the way the world is today, are we going to have to unwind what our kids learned out in the world while we sent them
right.
to school or while we sent them to daycare or whatever it is? Like, what things are we going to have to reverse? And having somebody who's going to be there to stand up for those things so that they can be getting the best options provided to them to make them into the best people that they can be, like having those solutions in place. And you're right, it does fall on the parents too a lot of times to make sure that they're raising up the kids correctly. But if you can have an environment that supports that
Yeah,
as well, where kids can be safe at a playground, and by having that support from more law enforcement in the area, whatever that looks like, but I think all of that kind of ties in together, making a better environment, better community for the younger generations and people growing up, and then working in the jail, like less people that I have to worry about then too.
Yeah.
People just more solutions for people that need it, and that's really cool. So for people who don't really know what the role of a state senator is there some things you can kind of touch on? What that looks like? Because for myself, I try to get involved in
Yep.
politics a little bit just to kind of keep up with things, but I don't necessarily know who's responsible for what. So could you maybe just touch on that for a little bit for people who don't know?
Yeah. So a state senator is somebody that represents their people in their district at the state level in St. Paul. They fight for the policies that impact your daily lives, from public safety to taxes to small business regulations.
Hmm.
A big part of the job is pushing against policies that will make life harder for families and for businesses and for law enforcement. And so we want to do everything we can so that we have a voice from the rural community, so that we're not just having to go along with whatever comes out of the metro and whatever comes out of St. Paul. It's about bringing local voices to the table. And too often, rural Minnesota does get overlooked. And I want to make sure that changes. The process is, in St. Paul, we have three branches: there's the governor, there's the House of Representatives, and there's the Senate. All three come together in the process of making laws. So, step one is senators and representatives will draft legislation. They meet in committees to talk about which legislation they're even going to vote on, because there are
Hmm.
thousands of bills that come through every year. And being a small government person, that is terrifying to me, because I'd rather no laws go through except for ones that are absolutely needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so thousands of laws are going through this filtering system. Uh, Near the end of session, once they've gone through and we've stamped some saying this is worth talking about, this is worth debating, this is something we really want to push. Once it's gone through that committee process, then it's voted on. The House and Senate will both see the same. They both need to vote on the same bill. So perhaps the House will put together a piece of legislation. They'll edit it. They'll vote on it, and they pass it. It then goes to the Senate, which is what the seat is for, and the Senate will look at the bill, and they might make amendments to it. They might make some changes to it so that it is cleaned up, and they need to vote on it as well. And once both groups have given it the green light, that then will go to the governor to either pass it or to veto it. And it's worth giving that big picture, because unless one party has all three of these groups in control, it's extremely difficult to get things passed. A lot of people get into politics and they promise the moon. They say, I'm gonna if you elect me, I'm gonna get rid of all taxes. And if you elect me, I will do everything I can to lower as many taxes as I can, get rid of
Mm-hmm.
wasteful spending. And there are things you can do, but you can't promise the moon, because unfortunately we're going head to head with Tim Walz, and
Mm-hmm.
he is going to veto anything he can that a Republican supports. And so we do need to be strategic about it. One of the things that I am incredibly passionate about with this whole process is treating people well. And there's this idea, there's this tribal perspective that it's us versus them always. And I do disagree with Democrats aggressively, but they are people,
Yes, sir.
meaning they are advocating for ideas that they do believe will help their community. I do believe a lot of those ideas pave the road to hell, and I believe they're terrible ideas, but it doesn't necessarily make that person evil. A framework of looking at it is this. There was a study done where it said 93% of people agree on what they want to get done. They just disagree on how. We do
Mm.
want better schools. We do want a better economy. We do want safer communities. We're just not coming to the same solution. And looking at it through that lens allows you to engage in disagreement, because no longer is it this villain that you're arguing with. It's somebody that does have good intentions, just a terrible idea. And so now when you're engaging, you can attack their idea all day. And to be clear, treating somebody with love and respect does not mean budging on your ideology. I mean, as a Christian, I am rooted in my faith, and I will not waver on that. But I can absolutely love somebody that disagrees with me, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's about my faith. And loving them doesn't mean I'll change. It means I'll still speak truth, but in love. And when you do that, when you bring that mentality of respect and love and honor into an environment that is just a desert for it, seeds are planted. People's
Mm.
lives actually change. And to think your only goal is to just get in a shouting match with somebody on the other side is to look at it wrong. We are ambassadors of the kingdom of God, every room we step into. And if you claim to be a believer and you're not stepping into a room thinking, I need to put a face on Jesus here, you're not doing it right. And
Mm.
it's a challenge that I vocalize it on a podcast like this because it's a bar that I want to live up to. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it doesn't mean you can't flip over tables. It doesn't mean that you can't
Right.
push ideas to protect families, to fight for law enforcement, to fight for the small business owner. But you can do it with respect. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
only way I want to operate.
Oof. Good stuff, man. Back when I was asking my question,
Yeah.
I said some people, that may not know a whole lot about politics because sometimes it can be messy. It can be that Thanksgiving or
Yeah.
Christmas dinner table and people are talking politics and you have opposing sides and it gets messy. In your opinion, if you don't mind sharing, where do you think the line is to where the average citizen like myself should be invested in politics and learning more about it and how much they should and how much I should take a step back from it and kind of let you handle that. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. I think it's important to be informed about the things that are going on that are impacting you. Um, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I do think a lot of people treat politics like it's their life and like it's their soap opera, and it's something that they need to uh, be aware of every little second of drama so that they can win an argument. And it's not a healthy thing for our society. I mean, if we're going to obsess over did Trump wear a yellow shirt or not today, which there are articles that share that kind of thing,
Oh
and
my
people get
goodness.
vitriol, anger against each other over such a minor thing. And it's not good for us. A lot of the things that go on in politics, especially on a federal level, don't impact you. They
Mm,
do, some do, and it's important to pay attention, but we act like every little thing going on is life or death. And I promise you, this is not what I'm advocating for, because I think it is important to be informed so that you can make an impact on your community. But if you just checked out of politics, you didn't watch any news, and you went off and lived in the forest, didn't hear another word of news, your life wouldn't be any worse. And I can also promise you, if you knew everything going on in the news in Minnesota, in America, and in the world, every detail, your life would actually probably be worse, not better. It's this idea of gather information about what's going on around you so that you can impact it. Um, if you're not informed, you're not going to be able to be impactful. But be careful about how much you bring in, because not all of it is going to be useful, and some of it actually it'll detract from your ability to be impactful, and it'll distract you with every little rabbit that jumps up. uh,
mm-hmm.
it's it's trying to find that balance, and then thinking about Thanksgiving dinner, when you're there with your family, I'd circle back to that perspective of, we are people that agree for the most part on solutions. I didn't say 100% of us agree on solutions. 93% was the study. We agree on the problems that we need to address. We just disagree on how we're going to address them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come at it with that heart, you're able to build bridges. And I've not been able to build bridges with every single person I know. And again, I do want to clarify, building a bridge does not mean changing what you believe, but being able to have relationship with the person in front of you. I keep circling back to the word, but it's a cornerstone for me. I think about Paul when he was first going on mission trips and he went to Greece. 0% of people there agreed with him. Nobody there
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hear from him and his nameless God. They would have treated him like an outsider, and yet he stepped in and he treated people with love, grace, and he spoke truth. And because of that, he planted seeds that, I mean, have reached us all the way to today.
Mm.
And we are called to be a light in a dark place, and we need to be tactful about what it is to be a light.
Yes, sir. Well said. Just wrapping up here, then, man. This has been an awesome conversation. Again, I really appreciate your time. But for those who are interested in, you're stepping into this role. You're stepping into potentially, something that could be very, very difficult, where it requires
Yeah.
you to be at your A game. What are some things that you do on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to make sure that you're at your best? Maybe as a dad, as a husband, and as a possibly, future politician for Minnesota.
I have to take it a step at a time, because all of these different phases are going to require different approaches.
Mm,
Throughout this election process, it is trying to be it's trying to find that balance between family time and campaigning and work. And when it comes to the family time, that's the one I have to be most strict about. When I'm with my family and we're doing dinner, it's hard for me, but I'm trying to shut off my phone altogether,
mm,
and saying I'm going to leave it off for a full hour. I'm putting on do not disturb at 9 p.m. so that we can go to bed and actually get a good night's sleep. There's some things that I've given up health wise that I don't want to. Like I enjoy my beer. I enjoy sipping a glass of whiskey here and there. I enjoy soda, but I need to clarify too. I went to school in Oklahoma, so now I say soda. Pops never come back to me, so I apologize. So everyone there that is offended, I apologize. But I've cut all of these things out, and I'm just drinking water. I'm doing my best to put good nutrients in my body because it does have an impact. I'm doing. I'm being very intentional about trying to get 6 to 8 hours of undisturbed sleep because yes, I could work until midnight and 2 a.m. every night. And yes, I could skip meals and just eat snacks, but I'm not going to be at my best, both as a parent and as a candidate, if I'm not doing those things well. Uh, as we get through it and as we get into the next steps, and if I win this election, my wife and I are going to build out a calendar and a plan on how we can balance family and be very strict about it because
mm,
family time has to be sacred.
mm,
I have no interest in being a hypocrite when I say I'm a Christian, then a father, then a husband, and then a conservative. And so I want to live by those words.
mm. Love it, man. Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you? How can we continue to support you and keep up with what's going on in the next couple steps? And I was going to ask about voting, but that is still to be determined. So we can we'll keep everybody posted on that. But where can people find you? How can we
Yeah.
stay in tune with Josh Gazelka?
So I have a Facebook page, Josh Gazelka for Senate. I have a website, gazelkaforsenate.com. And you can even add me on Facebook. I am doing an unfortunate thing and adding a lot of people with mutual friends on Facebook. I apologize if you're one of them. I'm not that guy usually, but it's unique circumstances. Normally, an election is months and months long. This is weeks. And so
Mm-hmm.
my mentality is a lot of people may recognize my last name, but they don't know me and what I stand for. And I don't want somebody voting for me if they don't know why they're voting. I want them to know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what they're getting when they vote for Josh Gazelka. And so I'm getting my stuff out there. I'm I'm the person that likes to live in the woods. I like to keep my business to myself. I posted on Facebook 3 times last year. So this is outside of my comfort zone, but this is part of the service. This is saying I'm willing to open up and expose my life to you. I am not sharing things about my wife and kids, which I guess I do want to touch on that quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not worth it. I don't need strangers to see pictures of my wife and my children to vote for me. If they don't vote for me because they can't see that, so be it. I value my kids' privacy over a couple votes, and I know that might sound harsh, but it's a weird world. And when it comes to my children, that's significantly more important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find me on Facebook, add me on Facebook, follow my Josh Gazelka for Senate page on Facebook, and then check out my website, Gazelka for Senate. How can you support? The first step in this process is I'm racing to the primary to become the Republican candidate. Frankly, whoever wins that will have a very strong chance of winning it all. That seat, there's only about 4 to 5 people running for it right now, that Republican seat. There may be more coming in soon. That's going to be a very thin victory. Anybody you can get out to vote, whether it's yourself, your spouse, two of your friends, every vote will count because whoever wins that could likely win by 5 to 10 votes. And
Mm.
so every vote matters. People say, I wish I could get more involved in politics or have more of a say. This is an amazing opportunity beyond just simply an election, but saying, I want this person to represent me as a Republican. And if you vote for me, you're going to get somebody that's adamantly fighting on behalf of small mom and pop business owners, somebody that is adamantly a advocate for law enforcement, and somebody that's fighting for families. I'm a traditional conservative. It's free market values. It is Christian principles. I do everything I can to keep the government out of your way so you can live your life. That's what I stand for, and that's what you would get if you voted for me.
It's been awesome to get a chance to talk to you and hear your story even more, and share in this, this journey that you're embarking on, this mountain that you're now facing. But we'll be praying for you, and if we can support you in any other way, let me know. I'd love to help you any way that I can. You're a good man, and I know you don't need to hear it from me to understand that. You got you got a great family, and it is clear that your priorities are a Christian husband or a father husband, and then now moving into this potential
Yeah.
role. It's amazing, and it's something that I can get behind for sure. So thank you again for your time, and we'll be in touch. And for those who are listening, we'll get those dates out there as soon as we can. I'll be in contact with you, and so that we can make sure people get out there and vote for Josh Gazelka.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, thank you, man. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.